Okay, so I did edit it, hopefully. We'll see if it worked out. Okay, so let's say we're asked to find the answer to this kind of a problem. Find the equation of the tangent line that goes through this function, x squared plus 3 over 2x, at this particular point. So we want to find the equation of the tangent line, which means in order to find the equation of a line, we need a slope and a point. And there's the point, so we just need to know the slope. Well, to find the slope, we find the derivative. The derivative in this function requires the quotient rule. Now this is the function we just did in the last example. So what I would do is I would use the last example, and I would plug in that x coordinate, because that's the x value at which we want to find the slope. So I would want to find what's f prime of 1. Well, we just did that, and the answer was -1. So that's the slope of the tangent line. Okay? So I know that my equation is going to look like -1x plus b. So my slope I put here in front of the x. Now I'm going to substitute that point 1, 2 for x and y, and then solve it for b. So this is -1. Add the 1 over. We get b is equal to 3. So put it all together. So my final answer would be -x plus 3. And that would be the equation of the tangent line. Okay? Piece of cake. Alright, now you'll also see some problems in the homework and on the AP exam where they ask you to find values for derivatives and then they tell you what the functions are. They're kind of interesting problems, but they're very easy if you understand what they're really asking. So let's say you're given this information. You got some function f where f of 2 is 8 and f prime of 2 is equal to -3. Another function g where we know g of 2 is -2 and g prime of 2 is equal to -1. Okay, so that's all we're given. And we're asked to find, or they're going to tell us that h of x, let's say, equals f of x times g of x, whatever f of x and g of x happen to be. And then they're going to ask you to find h prime of x. Okay. So how do we do that if we don't actually know what the functions are? Well, one thing we're going to notice here is that in order to find the derivative of h, since h is a product, first of all, we'd have to use the product rule. So going back to the last lesson, to do the derivative of the product, it's the first function times the derivative of the second, plus the second function times the derivative of the first. Okay, so that would be h prime of x. Now, what if they went one step further and asked you to find what's h prime of 2? You might think, well, how am I supposed to know since we don't know what the functions are? But they give us the values that I could use to find the answer. Okay, so h prime of 2, I'm just going to substitute 2 in for all the x's. So it's f of 2 times g prime of 2 plus g of 2 times f prime of 2. And then I just use the values that they give me initially. So f of 2 was 8. G prime of 2 is -1. G of 2 is -2. F prime of 2 is -3. To work out the answer, do the multiplying first. So this is -8 plus +6, which gives us the answer of -2. That's a real good no calculator type of question. Okay? You just need to know what the product rule is and substitute the values. Okay? So let's see you do a similar problem to that. Let's say we have the same information. So let's go back up to here. Let's use the same info. And what I want you to do is assume that k of x is g of x divided by f of x. And so you're asked to find k prime of 2. Obviously this one's going to use the quotient rule like the last one did the product rule. So let's have you guys try this one. Take a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes, and write the quotient rule. Use these values to finish up, and we'll be back to check your answer in 2-3 minutes. So please pause the tape. Be right back. And here we go. So the way you should have approached this is using the quotient rule. It's bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom all over the bottom squared. Of course, notice that the letters are backwards from the actual formula we wrote down earlier because now f is in the denominator. AP exam does that a lot, so you gotta be careful. Alright, so now, again, if you just substitute 2 in for all the x's, it's just a matter of plugging in the values. Okay, so f of 2 was 8. G prime of 2 was -1. Minus g of 2 was -2. Times f prime of 2, which is -3. All over f of 2, which was 8, squared. Working out the arithmetic, 8 times -1 is -8. -2 times -3 is 6, so it's -6, all over 64, which is -14 over 64, which if I divide by 2, you get -7 over 32. And that would be your derivative. Okay? All right, last thing. You can actually take derivatives multiple times. So we refer to higher order derivatives means if you take the derivative more than once. Okay? Now let's first of all talk notation. We've already said that if you've got y equals f of x, the derivative is either y prime or it's f prime of x. That's the notation for it. Well, there's something called a second derivative. And the second derivative is basically the derivative of the derivative. Which I'll show you how we calculate that in a second. It's really easy. But the notation is y double prime, or f double prime of x. So if you see two of those primes, that means do the derivative twice. Okay? And that continues on. We could have a third derivative, a fourth derivative. So for third derivative, you just use 3. Anything beyond that, we actually put the number in parentheses. So the third derivative you would see y triple prime. Well, that's 4. Or f triple prime of x. Fourth derivative instead of putting 4, after a while it's not going to be enough room to write all those tick marks. So we just write the number in parentheses. Now, since it's in parentheses, that differentiates it from y to the 4th power. This means fourth derivative. Or you'll also see f 4 of x. And that means fourth derivative. Okay? So let's do just one last example, finding multiple derivatives of the